Welcome one, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how great passing people is in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you, especially when you're passing all the broken Jeeps. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tyler, and joining me on today's episode is the one and only Mr. Jimmy Jett yet again. Mr. Jimmy Jett, how are you doing today?
I'm a little tired.
You're a little tired?
I'm a little tired.
Yeah?
It was a long weekend.
Yeah, it's I'm still not sure how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm just playing catch up and trying to get everything prepared at the same time for leaving again.
I know.
Yeah.
And right now I'm on the way up to Oregon.
Nice. How's your drive going?
Great.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing.
Smooth.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Driving Charlotte up there.
Nice.
Hanging out. Yeah.
How's all the company and
we downloaded Ready Player One.
Oh, the book?
The book.
Okay, I was
Audio
like, the
book.
movie? You're going to watch it on your way?
No, because the assistant has never read the book.
Ah, okay.
And so we're going to listen to the audiobook as we drive.
Nice. And so that'll be, how long is that book?
It's longer than the drive.
Okay.
Longer than both ways.
How long is the drive?
It's about, for all up to Bend area is about 7 hours.
7 hours? That's not bad.
No.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, so you're heading up right meow.
Yep.
I'm heading up in a few days.
Yes.
Couple days. And we're going to hang out up there and see what kind of stuff, trouble we can get into.
Sounds like a good time to me.
Perfect. And go show all those overlanders how to rock crawl and go climb on some people's rigs. So cool. Yeah, today we have a Monday episode.
Yes, we do.
And we are, of course, time traveling as we do in podcast land. So I don't think we're going to be able to get to winter for tool month for the tool chest EVA foam trays or birthdays or FNGs until like the third week of July.
Yeah. Like we've said it before, both of our schedules in July is very hectic and we're all over the place. So
yeah, it's a little cray-cray. So we'll get to those when we get to them, though. We did not forget about them, and we will not forget about them. We will get to them here. It's just going to take a little bit longer this month. So
yes. And also, since we're time traveling, we cannot choose yet the winner for the EVA foam trays.
For the you and your friend.
Yes.
Correct. Yep. So that'll come out
probably on Thursday.
We
can figure that one out.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see.
As long as we have internet.
Yeah, as long as
we can figure that
we
one
should
out.
Have some internet up there, I think. At least we can find some. The fun interview coming up.
Oh yeah. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, that'll be a really neat one. So we'll keep that one on the DL. That's all you're going to get to know about. Okay. So, and then we have another fun interview coming up at the end of the month.
Yes, we do.
So yeah, this month has been kind of interesting, trying to get ahead of the game and get everything planned out for all the travel arrangements that you and I are both doing throughout the month of July. It's going to be I don't know. We'll see if we're still friends and we're still wanting to do this podcast after July.
Yeah, but we'll still be friends. I don't know if the podcast is going to survive.
Yeah, podcast is going downhill. Just FYI, everybody. It's going to go up in flames. So we're just going to have to start taking July off.
Maybe.
We'll see.
That or we might need some, maybe we'll ask Greg Bakken if he can step in for an episode.
Oh, there you go. Have him take over for the month of July.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So let's see. We have, I don't know what else we got. I don't think we have very much housekeeping stuff because we're going to be kind of putting off a lot of the housekeeping stuff to later in the month. So we may just be doing like a catch up with everybody episode later in the month here.
I do want to say that here in the near future, I am going to make a Google questions form, a Google form, and it's going to have a series of questions on it. Something along the lines of ask a question to Tyler, ask a question to Jimmy, ask a question to the assistant, and ask a question to the secretary. Something along those lines. Okay. And then I believe for episode 350, we're going to answer the user's questions.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be essentially the four of us back for 350. Mm-hmm. And it'll be a user question episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we'll get some random questions and some fun questions and everything in between.
Yeah.
I'm considering I want to figure out maybe to do a way to have send a question into the assistant, but have it be like, assistant, please ask Jimmy this question.
Oh, that'd be,
or something like, I don't know quite how to figure that out yet, but
that'd be fun.
Or questions. Maybe there's even another tier, like questions that, Jimmy and Tyler ask the assistant and secretary, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to set it all up or what.
I know how to set that up. That's not too bad.
Well, I know how to do the Google spreadsheet or the form, but I don't know how to figure out the best way to ask or request the questions, I guess.
Yeah, I know how to set that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk off air then.
Okay. So I am going to say that Sherpa is going to be banned from asking any questions.
Oh, we could.
Because we won't be able to air them.
Sure.
So
I think we can exclude emails.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Yeah, make it
so that if he submits it, it'll just be like an error.
Yeah. Sorry, the form went down for some reason.
Yeah, 411. 404.
404 error. Oh, man. Anyway, so yeah, that's going to be coming up. Keep an eye open or your ear holes open for when that form goes live, everybody, because we'd love to get some questions and have a really fun episode for 350.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. I like it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yep, let's move on.
Let's move on. All right, so Monday episode, we have a fun episode today regarding trail etiquette because we haven't done an episode on trail etiquette yet.
We have.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, episode 12.
Oh, episode 12. That's right, 300
episodes ago. And that's why when we were talking about, topics to visit on the podcast and things that we wanted to cover, when we realized when we did off-road safety tips, we realized that we never had done that episode before. Mm-hmm. So then we went back and kind of looked at if we had done trail etiquette, and because we hadn't have done it for so long, we completely forgot if we have ever done it. And so, we scrolled back to episode 12 and realized
it's been a while.
Should revisit this.
Yeah.
It's an important topic. It's becoming wheeling season, Tyler. And
not if I don't have air conditioning.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. And maybe we should revisit this and just give a reminder out there for everybody.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a good topic. I think I haven't even looked back and listened to episode 12 to see what we did cover, but we have a pretty extensive list that you and I kind of put our heads together, and we made a pretty nice, good sized list similar to the off-road safety tips list that we'll be able to kind of go through and talk about and have hopefully some good ideas for everybody.
Yeah, I have 11 items on my list, and I'm sure you probably are pretty dang close to that as well. So just like we did with the
11
off-road,
and a half.
11 and a half. Yeah. We'll just kind of go down these lists in no particular order and talk a little bit about them and just, get your brain thinking about how to do things correctly out on the trail.
Yeah, get those brain juices flowing. So without further ado, grab your favorite flavor of balls, and we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion. Welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies, all the boys and girls out there, and of course our trail fur babies. Although mine hasn't been on a trail in a very long time. We are going to be going over today. What?
You're saying a whole conversation to yourself.
It happens sometimes.
And fur babies, and even though mine hasn't been on the trail for a while,
he's doing okay,
that's
though.
Good. But you should really go out on a trail sometime. I agree. That guy, he's like Gollum from Lord of the Rings over
there. My precious.
Wait, anyways, who, your fur baby?
Yeah. Anyways, we have a fun topic today. Some trail etiquette items.
Yes, absolutely. Some important ones and some are lower than important.
Yeah, some are some lower priorities, and I think there's a couple in here that are going to be on here just to kind of like discuss. Because I know there was one we were talking about, and I was like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I think it's a good one to talk about anyways.
Yeah.
So, cool. So you've got 11. I've got 11 and a half. So where'd the other half go?
It's on the top of mine.
Oh, okay. So
you might as well start.
I'll start. Okay. We have going uphill gets the right of way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we always think differently, but I guess it is in regards to once you stop, starting again.
And see, and I guess that makes sense in Kermit, and I think Bobcat too. I'm like, I can start and stop just fine on any hill.
Right.
I doesn't care.
Yeah.
We have a lot of levers.
The way I've always thought about this is, well, it's harder for the person going downhill to stop.
Yeah, it's harder for them to stop and then back up uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And
if need to be.
If you need to back up uphill to get out of the way, I'm like, that's so much harder to do than backing downhill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
But if the person that stops needs to go uphill, suppose it's harder for them to start again. That's the way. That's compared to the person stopping and going downhill.
Yeah.
So
I guess so.
That's the way the rule is written, even though we think it's backwards.
Yeah. And I think in 90% of the world and 90% of people out there, I think that rule is the way it should be. But in terms of what you and I do with our vehicles off-roading,
well, I think it's just torques.
It's totally torques,
right?
Like if two people came to each other on Cadillac Hill, who in that situation on Cadillac Hill, who do you think should have the right of way?
The person going downhill.
You think they should have? Yes, I agree. I was like, wait a minute. Yes,
because
I agree.
It's harder for the person to back up on Cadillac Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree. I think that in rock crawling situations, which is what you and my world revolves around, it should be the opposite of that. But I think for 90% of everybody else out there.
Yeah, and maybe this is just a rock crawling thing for us and not a trail outdoors in the middle of nowhere. Fire road, a steep fire road that's straight. I don't know. So I really, and a way to start us off on a possibly arguing with trail etiquette. I think it comes down to, and maybe another one that's on our list somewhere, it's just communication.
Yeah. Communicating and
you both stop and then figure out who is going to be easier to get off the trail one way or another.
Yeah.
And
who's going to be the easier one to get off. Yeah.
So, and to make the better right away.
Yeah. Situational awareness. Which one's safer to move, which one's safer to get around or move in whatever way you need to move the vehicle. So,
and to some extent figure out who has a farther distance to travel to an available open area to allow for passing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I like it. So, giving the right of way on hills. I think that's a good way to put that one. Item.
I think that's a good blanket statement there. My first one is leave your ego at home.
I can't do that. That's impossible for me.
Oh yeah. I believe you. But don't go out there to try to showboat. Don't be be a jackass out on the trail. Don't, going out into nature is a lot about being respectful, being compliant, being, just don't be an asshole. I think don't be that guy, right?
Well, I think being an asshole is different from leaving your ego at home.
Well,
I think leaving your ego at home is more about just putting yourself ahead of everybody else out there, and doing and not being aware of what your limitations are. So going above and beyond what your ego should be doing, I guess. Okay. What you should be doing. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that falls into another one of our topics. But so yeah, I mean, take it as you will, but don't pack your ego.
Yeah, don't pack your ego with you.
Don't go. Yeah. Leave it at home.
Yep, I agree. And for me, the big prime example of that was when I snapped my leaf springs in Moab, right? I got myself into a situation where I should have just winched out of it. And I should have realized sooner that I should have winched out of it. Instead, I was like, nah, I could do it. Let's just hit it a little harder. And I keep going. And then I snapped everything, cost everybody an extra 6 hours. And everybody got home at 3 a.m.
Yep.
So because of my ego, everybody else on that trip suffered. I think people had a decent enough time, but because of my ego, I cost everybody the trip.
Yeah,
so,
I thought it was fun.
Right. I think there were some people there that thought it was fun, but then there were other people there that were I think they were kind of miserable. So, leave the ego at home, man. Let's see. Next on my list is anybody not in a rig gets the right of way. And so this one is a good one when you've got cross multi-use trails, I guess. So if you've got hikers out and around you, people on horseback, bicyclists, motorcycles, dirt bikes, if somebody's not in a rig and you are in a rig, give them the right of way. You're in the safer environment. You're in the item that can do the most damage. So if you are giving the right of way to the other people, it just helps with overall safety on the trail and helps everybody get along better. So
yeah, I agree. There's usually when you're on a multi-use trail, there's a little diagram, like vehicles yield to everything, humans yield to horses, horses and bicycles yield to humans, and almost everything yields to horses too.
Yeah,
because a horse is a wild animal to some extent. So it's unpredictable.
Yeah,
just like vehicles.
Yeah, another thing about this, and maybe it'll get into, I don't know if did we write down the dust separately or?
No, but we wrote it down on a few different topics.
Yeah, another reason why it's just nice to yield to anybody outside of a vehicle is just because vehicles create a lot of dust on dirt roads, which is a lot of what we do in off-roading, is we're usually on a lot of dirt surfaces. And so it helps keep the dust down for those that are not in a vehicle and have to suffer through our choices of being out there in a vehicle.
Yeah, so. I've said it before, but every time I come upon a horse, I literally pull off to the side of the trail and turn my engine off.
Yeah.
Because even like most of the time people riding horses out on those trails are the horse is familiar with vehicles, but it's just safe for all parties. It's safer for my vehicle in case it gets kicked. Yeah. It's safer for the rider in case they get bucked off. It's just make it easier. And then wait a significant distance for them to get past you before you start your vehicle up again, especially if it's loud.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like to essentially almost go down into crawl around pedestrians if there's hikers around. And I've had somebody asking me before, like, you're going so slow. And I was like, yeah, because I'm taking the opportunity to make new friends on the trail as well.
Yeah.
So if I'm going and crawl, I'm keeping the dust down, keeping the noise down, and I'm getting a chance to kind of talk to the hikers and see how their day is going and show them that not all off-roaders are assholes out there.
Yeah. So. And especially another thing that happens while we're off-roading a lot, and we had it happen this weekend a few times, is motorcycles coming by.
Yeah.
And I usually, I'll crawl along or keep driving until I see them or know that they're in front of me or behind me. And then I'll find a very good spot, hopefully before they get right in front of me or behind me, that I can pull off and stop. Because once again, it's just a safer thing to do.
Yeah.
And if you're in the trail, most of the time motorcycles can squeeze by you at almost any point and just stop moving for that split second. Motorcycles go by you so quick.
Yeah, they do. That they'll be gone before you know it.
Yeah, that stopping for 5 seconds isn't going to, do anything for your trip and your timeline, but it's going to really make it a lot easier for that motorcycle to go past you.
Yeah. And it makes a big impact to them, right? Kind of like what you said. It's not going to really impact your trip at all. You're stopped for a couple seconds, but it could really impact their trip a lot by you not stopping.
Yeah.
So,
well, and so that kind of leads into my next one.
Oh, okay.
Which is yielding to faster traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And we were really talking about that in regards to other rigs, like you're driving down the trail and you have a group of people catching up to you. Pull over and let them go by, and then you continue down the trail. Yield to the faster traffic.
Yeah.
Right, and that does fall into motorcycles too. Those motorcycles are zooming up the trail at you. Pull over for that split second, let them go, and then you continue on. So I think, and that to some extent, that goes with traffic coming head on as well, right? If it's going to be faster to get these 4 rigs through an obstacle compared to the 10 rigs you have, let the 4 rigs go through.
Let them through real quick. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to put it. One thing that popped up when we were kind of looking into this topic that I found was not just the yield to faster traffic. So it's talking about it from the perspective of the person being the slower traffic. If you're reading it, you're the slower traffic, right?
Correct.
How do you get somebody to pull over if you are the faster traffic?
Yeah, honk, wave. There's probably, you need to find a polite way to signal them that you want to pass. And I don't have the answer.
Yeah, I think, that's a good question, right? And so
I think that
flashing your headlights,
maybe,
I think, is a good way to kind of get their attention.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're just super focused and concentrated on the trail ahead of them, their surroundings, maybe enjoying their nature, and they just don't realize there's somebody behind them.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
And so finding a way to signal them without being very abrupt and annoying about it is one thing you can do. I really like the way Samurai James approached the gladiators when he came upon the gladiators. He was behind them for a while because he got stuck behind the Forerunner, who was stuck behind the gladiators. And he was talking to the Forerunner, and when they had a stop where there was an obstacle they were stopped at, James went up and was like, "Hey, do you need any help with the obstacle? Hey, can I help you with anything? Maybe they've got something wrong." And that also kind of gives you an in as well, and people aren't going to think that you're just trying to be an asshole and get around them if you're asking if everything's okay first.
Right. Yeah.
And then he was like, "Okay, do you mind if we get around?" And the Forerunner was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm stuck behind these gladiators, so even if you get around, you're going to have to deal with these guys, but I'll let you around." And then so he did the same thing to the gladiators, and the gladiators pretty much said, "Nope, we're not going to let you around." And so, like, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean,
shoot out one of their tires. That way they have to stop.
Because probably the gladiators are going to be going on an easy line, and you find yourself a hard line that you can pass them faster on. And I think it comes down to trail etiquette and teaching those people in the gladiators that you should be yielding to faster traffic that is approaching or approaching you one way or another from front or behind. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the trail etiquette is, the trail etiquette, the educational side needs to happen, but the trail etiquette is yield to faster traffic, right? And the yielding needs to happen. Yeah. Right. It's not the fact that we're faster traffic, we need to get by. Yeah. It's those people need to be yielding.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
As much as, but we don't have a definitive answer. I think asking, flashing your headlights, honking your horn, don't be an asshole, don't rev, leave your ego at home. Yeah. Don't rev your engine at it. And worst case scenario, become a Forerunner trail tampon.
Yeah. Wait, was that towards me?
Well, sort of, but it worked out great when you did it.
It was awesome. That's also why I put a siren on the rig too, but I've been using it more to annoy everybody else in my groups. So next one on my list is keep your distance from other rigs.
Yeah, I think this is a very important one.
And this one's really important for a lot of different reasons, it's not just nice to do, but it's also safer, and it helps you out a lot too by keeping your distance. So when you keep your distance from other rigs, you don't get, like, say you're in Go Fast Desert stuff, you don't get caught in that dust cloud, right? So you get to see what's happening. You can see what's going on with the vehicle in front of you. And you're not going to end up, running into it. Yeah. In the rock crawling world, if you're keeping your distance, that may mean not getting into the obstacle until the person in front of you is through the obstacle. And that gives them space to maneuver without hitting you. And it gives you space to maneuver without having to hit them or hit somebody else.
Right. It also allows you, if you are leaving an appropriate distance, it allows you to view the obstacle instead of just tailgating them and hoping they're on the right line. Yep. Right. And then you can choose your own line from there.
Yeah, that's a big one that I realized. I think the first time I went on the Rubicon, I was following a CJ5 in my first gen Forerunner. And I kept following him really closely and trying to take his same lines. I was like, why am I keep getting stuck? This is stupid. It was getting really frustrating. Then I finally realized, I was like, oh, if I just give him more space, then I can now see what lines are available to me and choose my own lines.
Yeah.
So there's that, especially if somebody leaving more space when someone's in an obstacle as well, in case people like to spin tires and they throw rocks. So if you can leave more space behind the person in front of you, then you're less likely to get a rock in your windshield as well. So.
Yeah. And if they perhaps need to back up for some odd reason, you're not right on their tail. And then hopefully the person behind you is not on your tail. And you're having to like tell everybody to move backwards so that the person in front that needs to reverse can do so and get out of their hole that they're in.
So, Yep. Keep your distance.
Yep. Absolutely. My next one is don't drink and drive.
Yeah. Kind of self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory. Don't do it. You know, we're huge advocates for not drinking while you're driving out on the trail, but you can have a beer, be appropriate, you know, have a beer while you're at lunch, you know, maybe have a beer if you stop. And I think we read it somewhere. It was like follow the street legal rules. Yeah. You know, so don't, you know, like don't have 5 beers at lunch.
Yeah.
Right. Don't drive, you know, drunk. Don't drink and drive. But if you know, be under the legal limit while you're out on the trail. And then when you get to camp and you're done for the day, have fun. Yeah.
I think that also goes to knowing your limits and kind of leaving your ego at home. Don't try and drink a bunch to show off to your buddies. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You know what your limits of being impaired are and stay below that while you're driving, while you're in control of a vehicle. So cool. Next one for me is stay on marked trails for your vehicle. So not just staying on marked trails, but say don't be taking a 4x4 down a single track trail. Don't go taking your 4x4 down a tracked snow trail during the wintertime, right? So just be aware of, you know, other people like to go out and enjoy nature as well. And if we take our 4x4s down single track trails, we're doing a lot of damage. Those trails are designed specifically, and there are different ways to set up trails and native surfaces for single track versus 4x4s versus hiking versus horseback versus whatever. So be considerate of that. There's other people out there that like to enjoy nature as well and go out and get nature baths or mountain therapy. And, keep our vehicles on the trails designated for our vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny. I was hiking up Empire Mine a few weeks ago, and they had a sign on the trail, and it said hiking, or it had the pictures, right? The hiker had a horseback rider person. It had a motorcycle and a quad. And the motorcycle and quad were crossed out. Right? So
they're not allowed.
Not allowed. But I was like, so I could take my truck out here?
I guess that's true. They're now making it an explicit definition there. Yeah.
It does not say that I cannot drive my truck out there.
Yeah. I think legally you would have a case for that.
But in regards to staying on the trail, you know, and staying on the trails that you should be on, I definitely should not be off-roading on that trail.
Very true. Yeah.
So my next one down here is pretty broad, but we're going to shorten it up here at the end, is always be considerate.
Yeah.
There's many levels of this that we could talk about, but ours is more or less pertaining to dust. Right. You know, just, you could always be considerate in camp. You could always be considerate on the trail. You can just, be considerate in general, looking at people, asking if they need help, seeing if somebody's struggling, just always being considerate anywhere. But ours is be considerate around the dust. Don't drive past people quickly. If you're driving past camps, take your time. Like we talked about a little earlier, if there's hikers on the trail, just crawl, and don't blow the dust. Even in a dusty area, and if you're close to other people, just slow down a little bit. It's a very easy concept to be considerate, especially pertaining to dust. And just be considerate in what you're doing in regards to that.
Yeah. I think it's a big overarching one that can cover a lot of the different categories of the different things we're talking about today, which is kind of why we put it under its own category as well, because it's also a really important one.
Yeah.
Right. We all want to be out there enjoying the mountains, enjoying the deserts, enjoying the rivers, enjoying the beaches, whatever it is that we're enjoying. We all want to be out there enjoying it. But that's kind of the thing. We don't get to enjoy it unless we all get to enjoy it. Right. And so being considerate of other people out and around you while you're enjoying what you're enjoying should be I think, in my opinion, rule number one.
Yeah,
for
definitely could be up there for sure.
Yeah,
there's many levels of that, from camping to wheeling to hiking to just talking.
Yeah,
just be considerate.
Yep. Let's see. Next one for me is be considerate by never stopping or parking on the trail.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep. And so this one, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but like you never, I don't know, you don't really, some people don't, it doesn't occur to them or think about it. Cause you'd think if you're going to be on a trail and you're stopping really quick for like a planned 2-minute stop, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be here that long. It's okay for me to just jump out of the rig real quick and go. But you really shouldn't be doing that, because there's a lot of times somebody, you never know how far behind you somebody is. And especially if you're in a faster trail system, they could plow right into your vehicle and take everybody out.
Yeah.
If you're stopped in the middle of a trail, you're being inconsiderate of everybody else. That's literally the definition of stopping in the middle of a trail, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk about it on Thursday's episode, but when I had my break, I'll leave it a little vague. I still was able to maneuver my vehicle, and I put myself I was still on the trail to some extent, but I put myself in a location where it was very easy for people to get around me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just, there is that level. So to be considerate to try and get yourself off the trail, or leave ample amount of space for people to get around.
Yep. Or make space if you need to, such as what we did when Lee had his power steering issues in the middle of Big Sluice.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we had to maneuver the rest of the group in order to make space for people to get around.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
The next one on my list is keep your pets under control.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any pets that I take out with me. But, I do know that, the
mini assistant isn't considered a pet. Keep her under control.
Not by legal sizes. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, a random dog running into camp, like digging through the garbage or something like that, is just annoying.
Yeah.
And so I'm not an advocate for, always keeping a dog on a leash, or, having the dog always be right beside you. I'm even okay for, the driver in the vehicle putting along down the trail and the dog's outside the vehicle running along. Usually those dogs are well behaved.
Yes.
And everybody, I realize it and the driver realizes it, and it's fine. But there's, many times where people bring a pet out on the trail and they just sort of let it go and aren't aware of where it's going, what it's doing, or anything. So I think, keep your pet under control, keep it near you, in your vicinity, in your camp or whatever, and have a good understanding of what it's doing. It should be, to some extent, like an extension of you and your vehicle and your kids and your family. You don't want it bothering other people.
Yeah, 100%. And I know that there's people out there, like you said, usually the dogs are like running alongside the vehicles. Those are the most well-behaved dogs. And typically people who do let their dogs run around off leash full time have a pretty good read on their dogs.
Yeah.
And know what their dog is or is not going to do in different situations. And so there's also the kind of people that they're like, oh, I want to bring my dog on the trip, but I don't really want to care about what the dog does. It's like, those people need to be euthanized. No, I'm just kidding.
Ouch.
You should not be a dog owner in that case, in my opinion. So
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. What else do we got on my list over here? Let people know how many rigs are behind you, which is a really good one that I see a lot of JK owners not following.
I see
and JL owners.
I just see a lot of people on the trail not doing it. And we were out on the Rubicon this last week, and most of the time I spent time in the rear of the, I was a tail gunner or the caboose or whatever, and there was typically one person behind me. Even though I was the one on the mic, I would roll up on the parties and be like, one more person behind me, and they're like, oh, I think there's 3 in our party. I'm like, okay, there's one more behind me, just so you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and especially kind of in our group also, I don't think that was being communicated to the other drivers as well. I think the leader said, our leader, whoever was leading the group, said there's 9 people in our group, but I don't think anybody else throughout the group was saying 5 more behind me, 4 more back, 3 more back, 2 more, and then it got to me and I'm like, 1 more person behind me. And they're like, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's just a level of communication that makes passing people a little easier.
Yeah.
And understanding of where people are, especially if you're spread out.
Yeah. I think definitely if you're spread out, in my opinion, it is, if you're in a big group, the leader and tail gunner should be in charge of that communication. For me, kind of, if I'm passing a big group, I don't want to have to stop and talk to every single rig about how many people are behind them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I just completely ignore all the middle rigs, because I don't want to talk to them about the 5 behind them and then the 4 behind them, then the 3 and then the 2. I'm like, I don't, the first person told me and I know who the last person is. And so everybody else is in that group. So I'm cool. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. Could it be as simple as holding the fingers out? Yeah,
I guess I feel guilty if I'm going by and somebody's like holding fingers out. Then I feel like I need to acknowledge that.
Yeah. You just wave back.
And that takes effort, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I just smile and give them a nod and then keep going.
I don't know. I usually, if I'm in the middle of the pack, I hold out how many people are behind me. If there's 3 people behind me, I hold up 3 fingers, and I usually do it with my thumb out because it's different.
Yeah.
And so it makes them think.
Yeah.
2 is the worst. If there's 2 people behind you, then people think you're giving them a peace symbol, or they go, or is there 2 people back there? I don't know.
Most people are usually flipping me off. Does that mean there's always one person behind them? Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely communicating with how many people are in your group, how many people are behind you. I think that's a good one that a lot of people don't do. I usually, just because I'm usually out front, it seems like, I end up like waving at people and telling them to stop, like flagging them down and saying, hey, how many people are in your group? Is it just 1, or do you got like 20 people back there that we can't see, or... and then I'll have that conversation with the leader in the group, and then I'll assume that the leader of that group has communication with their group somehow. And then I'll be like, okay, cool. I have that conversation. We both talked about it, and then let's go.
Yeah, I liked the way that we attacked Cadillac Hill, where we sent 1 rig forward to see if anybody was coming. I kind of think that'd be a neat way to attack any trail.
Yeah.
Where you send 1 rig 5 minutes ahead of you so that they can, it's easy for 1 rig to maneuver around other rigs. But if you have a group of 11, like we had, we had 1 rig up ahead, and he was saying there's 10 more rigs behind him that, then you figure out, do we need to pull off, or do they need to pull off?
Yeah.
And you can kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah. I love doing that strategy, especially out on the Rubicon, because you're going to have traffic at some point, and there's some places on the trail where you just can't get traffic through. And if you end up getting oncoming traffic in that section of the trail, it's going to take 20 times longer than if everybody just stopped and hung out and waited for the traffic to get through and took turns. So it's kind of like if anybody watches documentaries or whatever on Everest and going up the Hillary Step.
I don't know it.
Oh, there's a massive traffic jam every single day on Everest.
Yeah.
At the Hillary Step, because
those
people
are
are
like
just
the last few steps before the summit.
It's like a 30-foot climb. Yeah. And you can only get 1 person through at a time. And so you have to kind of set up traffic control there. And what people do is they'll send 1 person up to block all the traffic for everybody in their group so that they can get their group up, and then let the rest of people kind of figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So my next one on my list, we have it here, and maybe you can explain why we added it on here. I'm not sure if it's an etiquette thing as much as sort of a rule to some extent. And I think we said it last Monday, is don't wheel alone. Yeah. It could be an etiquette to some extent, for it's just a better safety factor. It's, if you're wheeling alone, I would just highly suggest you have some way of communicating out in case there is an issue. I don't know. Did you really have anything else to say on that?
The big thing for this one in terms and reference of trail etiquette is just that if you wheel with other people, you're more likely to get off the trail and get out of the trail, get out of the way of other people. You're more likely to be able to communicate and make sure communication is happening with oncoming traffic. Like, in my opinion, if you wheel alone, you're more likely to be a problem on the trail at some point because you're not going to have help to not be a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that in theory, I don't know if that is how it works practically.
Sure.
But because like big groups also take up a lot of traffic and slow down trails. Whereas a single person can kind of dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge its way through traffic.
Right.
And
I think to your extent is if you get into problems.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna be the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And there's some etiquette flaw there.
Yeah.
But I also see it as if you're wheeling alone, then you're probably the one going to be getting out of the way, letting the groups by because you're one person and it's much easier for you to get off the trail. So, if you are wheeling alone, I think there's be courteous, which is like, or considerate, which was one of our other topics on there. So,
yeah, that's a good one. Next one on my list is just slow down. And in the rock crawling world, I don't think that's necessarily a big issue because we're all going super slow anyways. But like in go fast desert stuff, slow down a little bit. Make sure that you're not going so fast that you lose control of your rig. You're not blowing through blind corners. You're slowing down at corners so that if there's somebody coming the other way, you both don't end up in a 80-mile-an-hour head-on collision. Slow down enough at bare minimum to make sure that you can control your vehicle for whatever situation arises. And that's what I tell people when snow wheeling. Like I love letting people drive Kermit snow wheeling. And they're like, oh, can I go faster? I'm like, can you maintain control of the vehicle going faster? Like that's the limit. If you can't, then don't go faster, stay slower. And that goes back to leaving your ego at home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and I'm going to point fingers.
Yeah.
Side by sides.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of that goes into side-by-sides. People, I think they're new. I think a lot of side-by-side owners are relatively new to off-roading, and they have extremely capable vehicles, and they get themselves in trouble going really fast. So,
absolutely. The next one I have on my list, I think we'll discuss a little bit.
Okay.
In regards to bathrooms, men on driver's side, women on passenger side. What if the women's driving?
If they're, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't think guys really care too much about who's around when they're doing their business.
Nope.
I think, the females care a little bit more. And if your group is predominantly male drivers, then yeah, I think that's, whatever side of the vehicle, they're predominantly on, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's really how the rule is written. It's like, usually the man's the driver. Stereotypically, the man's the driver and the woman's a passenger. So that's why it's that way. I think it's a good rule to throw out there and to tell the group because the women do need additional privacy, whereas a man can lean up against a tree and be pretty much fully covered. Yeah. So I think it's something that should be discussed and known in the group, whether it's one way or another. Yeah. It just should be said.
Yeah. And we've kind of joked around about it, but also like not joking around about it. Every year the Mad Hatters does a ladies, not ladies run. And so it's a run that's supposed to be all the women driving. Okay. And so the goal is to have, 100% of the rigs on trail driven by women for that trip. But, then we have, guys wouldn't show up and people wouldn't be a part of, they'd be left out if they don't have a lady to come that wants to come and drive. So it's turned into the ladies, not ladies run.
Oh, got it.
And so whenever we do that run, we switch it and say, all right, ladies go to the bathroom off the driver's side of the vehicle and men go off the passenger side.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that's what my whole thing is that should just be communicated one way or another. Yeah. But yeah. And the ladies run by the Mad Hatters is fun. We've done that. So. Yeah.
Cool. Next one I have is pretty self-explanatory, but it's amazing at how much it doesn't happen. Pack it in, pack it out.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody knows there's trash services up in the mountains. All the idiots. Just kidding. No, pack it in, pack it out. You bring it with you, take it back home. Don't leave it up in the mountains. There's not people that are going to come and clean your shit up. I mean, there are, unfortunately, because it's necessary, but it shouldn't be necessary.
No,
so
it shouldn't. And I would highly suggest, just pack it in, pack it out, and clean up after others.
Yeah.
Because the more that the trails stay clean, the easier it is for us to keep them open.
100%.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to go down in flames for saying this. I highly suggest people carry wag bags and use wag bags and, carry out their shit. Literally.
Yep.
Everywhere in the nation. I mean, I still have the envision in my mind of Moab. And
that blew me away,
man. A hill
yeah.
and just seeing a valley of white flowers.
Yeah, that blew me away.
And I was walking over with a wag bag, and when I grabbed the wag bag out, people were like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's a wag bag."
Yeah, that blew me away. Like I we wheel on the West Coast, and that's a very big thing communicated on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That you should be carrying wag bags and taking your fecal matter out with you. It surprised me, and it really kind of put me off that isn't more of a common thing. That not only not a common thing, but like people don't even think about it.
No, they don't.
In the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So
it's like out of sight, out of mind. It was over the hill. Nobody saw it on the trail. It's all good.
Yeah. Not good.
And it's not.
Not okay.
It's not okay.
No.
And I do foresee eventually it being a requirement across the nation. I mean, it's going to have to happen.
I think it should be, in my opinion. So
to some extent, and it doesn't happen, and especially like on the Rubicon and everything where we go most often, I would like it. It would be a lot easier if they had a waste station at the trailheads. That
would be awesome. That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Whether garbage or wag bags, I mean, I think it would make it a lot easier for people out on the trail to accept it.
Yeah. One thing that I threw around, I think you and I talked about it at one point, is supplying a wag bag station at trailheads for people to take a wag bags with them into the trail, kind of like spill kits, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, but how do you monitor that and make sure people aren't just taking all the wag bags for themselves?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you can't.
You can't. But I didn't even think about having a dump station for it as well at the trailhead. That's a really good idea.
Well, it really came into my mind because when I dropped off Bobcat up at the chalet, I really had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't wait until I got down to the staging area.
Yeah.
And so I went to the bathroom. So I had to carry a wag bag and I didn't want to leave it in Clifford.
To stew for 3 days?
To stew for 3 days. And I didn't want to leave it in the back of Clifford in case an animal came by or something and then opened the bag up in the back of Clifford.
Yeah.
And so I carried the wag bag with me for 3 days, and I'm like, it would be really nice if I could just dump this right now and drop it off. But I do understand there's probably some sanitation concern.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a problem that we just haven't looked at tackling yet. I mean, the easy answer is there's restrooms down at staging, but if you can't wait, I mean, let's encourage wag bag usage more and solve the problem of what to do with wag bags.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. Let's see. That was mine. What's yours? What's next?
Mine. It's another controversial.
Yeah.
One.
Okay.
Stacking rocks.
This is a good one.
Really, this came, the Ettiquette side of this was if you stack rocks, in my opinion, is unstack the rocks. If you move them, put them back.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people the etiquette is don't stack rocks. Don't
stack
move
it all.
the environment. Don't change it. Don't do it. Because that's if you have to stack rocks, you probably shouldn't be out on the trail. That's
the main argument there. Yeah.
Right. And then 2 is you're damaging the environment around.
Yeah, you're changing up the environment and moving stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good controversial one. And this is one, me as an off-roader driver, I don't really care if there's rocks stacked or not. Because like for me, being out on the trail and off-roading is a part of the fun for me. It's not the main fun for me. The main fun for me is being out there with friends and buddies and getting to hang out with them, spend time with them, make memories with them, and then using the off-roading to get to destinations. That's what's fun for me, is the destination area.
Sound like an overlander.
I kind of am. I like to do more extreme stuff to get to the overlanding, I guess.
Rock landing.
But yeah, and so it's like, I don't really care if there's rocks stacked or not. In my opinion, nature is always evolving. And it's our goal to not create irreparable damage, right? Our goal is to create sustainable damage. I mean, the goal is not to damage anything, but like the way that we recreate is going to damage stuff.
Yes.
We're taking 5,000 pound plus vehicles. If you're Jimmy, it's a 3,000 pound vehicle. And we're taking these really heavy machines that sometimes leak fluids, sometimes break and leave shrapnel places. And the damage is going to be, it's collateral damage in my opinion. But then the goal is to minimize it and make that damage sustainable to the environment so that no matter what we're doing, we can keep doing it forever.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And so a lot of people see moving rocks as you are now that you can't get up the obstacle, you're removing a rock from one area that it was living at for like 100 years or whatever, and you're putting it in the trail, and then you're possibly grinding that rock up and or spinning the dirt underneath it so that you can successfully get through the obstacle.
Yeah.
And so it's possibly doing more damage,
irreparable damage
to the trail than you just driving down it.
Yeah,
and then you leave the rocks there, and then more people drive over it and do more damage.
See, I don't think driving over a rock does very much damage, if any, irreparable damage. It's when you're spinning your tires on rocks and spitting the rocks out that it digs out dirt and everything.
That's
blah blah.
What I meant.
Gotcha.
If you're driving over the rocks and spitting the rocks out, you're doing damage.
Yep. But if you're spitting them out, then they're not there for the next person. So
yeah, unless the next person is a different wheel length.
Yeah.
I mean, if a CJ5 drives through an obstacle and spits a rock out, and then I drive through the obstacle, I might hit that same rock that he just sput out, and then I might sput it out.
I guess. In my opinion, if the rock is not in the obstacle anymore, then it's not in the obstacle. So, I mean, typically rocks get put at ledges, places you need to get up something. And so if somebody spits it out of that hole that it's in, then it's no longer in the hole that tires are going into.
Correct, but there's different wheelbase length tires or vehicles.
So you're saying that you being a longer wheelbase
I might be
spin
pushing
out on that rock before you get to the hole?
Well, if my front tires are at the same spot where the CJ5's front tires were, and I've got to climb a ledge and my rear tires spin.
I don't think that happens. I think that the ledge is what holds you up.
Right. And so then
on the rear tires then. So that means your tires would have to be at the ledge or in the hole.
Well, so my front tires are on the same exact ledge that a CJ5 was on.
I don't think they would be. I think your rear tires are going to be at the same spot as the CJs, and your front tires are going to be at a different location.
Well, let's just agree to disagree on that one.
Okay.
I think that there's an opportunity that you might be able to push a rock further down the trail.
Okay. Yeah.
So my opinion is you should move the rocks back out of the trail. If you move a rock in, you should take it out.
Okay.
And I know that there's people's opinions that you should, if you move it, leave it. And there's people's opinions to not move it at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there is a proper etiquette to this, but I think all of them are an etiquette.
I think that they're all an etiquette, and just being cognizant of how your actions and what you're doing on the trail are going to impact people coming up behind you, after you, kind of thing. So in my opinion, I'm trying to think about, what do I do if I'm going up an obstacle or stacking a rock or something? And I've found that I don't typically stack very many rocks. So, but if I do need to stack a rock, that I'm trying to think, what do I do? And I think I usually just leave them there because the person behind me needs it too. I don't know.
Yeah. I think to some extent also that you and our rigs are so much more capable than needing to stack a rock.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, like, if I'm having to stack a rock, that it means it's keeping and helping me from spinning my tires. Yes. And so by stacking rocks, I think you're doing less damage to the trail than not stacking rocks. And so by stacking rocks, you're creating more of a sustainable wheeling environment.
Yeah, as long as those rocks never get spit out.
Yes. And that comes to, people need to not be spinning their tires and spitting them out.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to my next item, even though, so I'm going to double up here, which is spinning your tires and erosion.
Oh, that is next. Okay.
And in dirt and in sand and, on a trail is don't do wheel speed, don't do wheel spin.
Yeah.
Do your best to, to not spin your tires up, but continue to move yourself forward. Anytime you're digging your tires down into the dirt, making bigger holes, you're loosening that ground up. And then when the watershed and rain shed, when it rains, the watershed happens. And now you're more dirt and more grime is going down the trail than naturally would.
And all that loose dirt gets flushed out of the trail that you just made. So now the trail becomes deeper and harder for other people to get there, and you're creating more irreparable damage. And we see it all the time, heading up and people do hill climbs.
Yeah.
Right. The fun thing about hill climbs is just throttle down as hard as you can and spin out and, act like you're in a mud bogging competition or something. And it's like, no, I don't think that's quite the goal we should be going here for. So, if you can't do the trails you want to do without spinning your tires, in my opinion, you need to be working on your rig a little bit more and doing some extra things to your rig.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a really hard thing to say to somebody by in regards to stacking rocks and spinning tires. It's, you shouldn't be out there.
Yeah. You're not prepared for that trail.
Your rig is not built good enough to do that trail.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate to say it, but Lee, we need to make some upgrades to the Lexus.
Yes. I think he's in the works of that right now.
Yes, he is. And I can say that because I know he is in the works on those. So next one was that it for spinning tires?
Yeah, I think, they go hand in hand. So I wanted to speak about them at the same time.
I like it. Next one for me, trail etiquette wise, is keep an eye on the vehicle behind you.
Yes, absolutely.
Or at bare minimum, know where they are and what's happening to them. Because I'm a big proponent of using radios to keep track of the vehicle behind you. And so that allows people to get spread out more and kind of do their thing while still being in communication, knowing what's going on with the rig behind you and whether they do need help, need a spot, or whatever it is. Just realize that however far ahead I get on people, if the person behind me gets in trouble, I got to go all the way back to get them.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
If you're it's one thing to have the radios and be in communication, but it's really good just to keep an eye on them because and primarily at obstacles, right? If you're on a smooth section and you're going, and you're cruising along, you can leave a bigger gap between you guys. But if you're in an obstacle area, and I'm looking at, in my mind, I'm picturing the Jeep going up that rocky area. The Toyota that was in front of it should have never left him. He should have.
I'm sorry, on the last trip we did?
On the last trip we went on, there was a section after Big Sluice where there was a Toyota, a Jeep, and a Toyota that were going up that rocky section.
Oh, okay, yes.
The Toyota drove all the way through the rocky section and continued on down to where we were parked.
Yeah.
He should have never left that Jeep so far behind him.
Struggling as hard as he was, yeah.
And struggling as he was. They should have been closer together, and that rig should have helped pull the other rig up the obstacle.
Yeah.
Because in that scenario, we had to stack rocks for that person because there was no way that they were going to get up that area anyway.
Yep. And they were spinning the shit out of their tires, digging the holes bigger. Yeah.
And having poor etiquette.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That was keep, and as I almost said, keep an eye on the person behind you. As more of a figure of speech, know what's going on, know when they're going to need help, and have the cognizant ability to know when you can get ahead of somebody and when you need to stay right there with them.
That's a decent way to say it.
Yeah.
Know when you need to be close and know when it's okay to be far. And both visual and radio communication is good, but know when to use it.
Yes. Yeah, I like it.
Why don't you go again, since I did too?
Twofer. Let's see. Next on my list is gates open versus closed.
Yes, this is a good one.
This is a good one that it just never occurs to me to think about because we don't have this problem really on West Coast wheeling.
Yeah, West Coast wheeling, if the gate's closed, you don't go through it.
Exactly. Right. But East Coast wheeling or, Central United States wheeling, there's a lot of private land that trails go through that you're allowed to use.
Yeah, there's permission from the owner that you're allowed to drive on that road.
And so there may be gates at property lines that you can go through. And the big thing is leave the gate the way you left it.
Yes.
If it was open when you got there, leave it open. If it was closed when you got there, close it when you get through.
Yep. Exactly. Leave it the way you found it.
Yep.
That could be one of our
I was going to say that's another hierarchy one, a bigger picture one. Yeah.
Yep. My next one is noise and noise at camp.
Okay.
Right. And I think a good way to say this or to put it is think about it as if you're at a campground. Right. Don't be so noisy that you're going to bother the people next to you, and do have to some extent some quiet hours, especially if you're in a more, like, I'm picturing Buck Island Lake.
Yep.
Right. If you're in a busy area, don't be rocking out to music until midnight. Turn your music down so that only your camp can hear it at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. And that also goes to vehicle noise. Don't be hitting a rev limiter and going crazy in the middle of the night.
Launching the sirens and the train horns at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you camp more dispersely and you're not around anybody, you can turn that volume up. You can be louder, because the people are going to be farther away from you. You're not going to bother them. So I think that the noise, just be considerate to your neighbors, be at camp, right? Realize how loud your noise is and don't try not to bother others.
Yeah. I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Okay.
What do you say to people that are like, well, if they don't like my noise, they can leave?
I just ask them to turn it down a little.
Yeah.
I just go, hey, and you could even lie, to someone like, I've got a kid that's trying to sleep and, and your noise is keeping him up. Can you turn it down a little, please?
Yeah.
Don't turn it off. I'm okay. You can play.
Keep having fun.
You're having your fun. That's usually so. Okay. So I've got a decent example to this, or to some extent. I was out camping in a campground, and it was like 1 a.m, and this group was still going wild and crazy, right? And I went over to them and I said, "Hey guys, I appreciate that you're having fun, and I'm all for it, but you're being a little loud. Can you guys please turn it down a little bit, turn the music down, can keep your volume down, stay up, but continue to have fun, but just, can you turn it down a little?" And that's where and then they did. Yeah. And then they got louder, but but then people were shushing them, they were trying to self-regulate themselves too. Right. They were trying to be considerate. Right. Yeah. So, and I think it's really how you approach it. If that guy's being an asshole to you, then, there's not much you can do except for trying to be polite back to them and see if they can understand that you want to go to bed and they're keeping you up.
Yeah. My whole thought process on this is, I personally don't really care too much about noise during the day. I still think that you should be very cognizant of groups and people around you and keeping your noise to, your campsite during the day. But I'm a huge believer in quiet hours. And, if there's, try and keep noise from happening before 7 a.m. and try and keep noise from happening after 10 a.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
you only get 3 hours to be loud.
yeah, exactly. And that just goes to help out because there's some people that are morning people and there's some people that are night people. And the only way that we're all going to get along is if we agree on some fair, quiet-ish hours. And I totally am with you. I'm like, hey, just, keep the music on in your campground. Just keep it down, don't be running the rev limiter. If you need to go take your rig out because you want to go night wheeling, cool, take it out and go night wheeling, but don't bang the rev limiter and hit the sirens and the train horns at 11 o'clock at night. And me personally, whenever I'm around people that are like trying to stay up until 1 a.m. Partying and just causing a lot of havoc to everybody around them, I'll get up at like 4 a.m. and turn on music and put it in their direction and wake them all up at 4 a.m. and be like, oh, I'm sorry. I get up at 4 a.m. You guys go to bed at 1 a.m. That's fine. That's 2 a.m. That's fine. But I get up at 4 a.m. So I'm going to have fun now.
Right. Yeah. So, and another thing to take into account.
I get passive aggressive.
is if noise bothers you and you don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't camp there.
Yeah, and know to plan ahead and don't be around people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've said it numerous times that Buck Island Lake camping area is one of the party areas. And a lot of times I choose not to camp there because I actually like quiet. Yeah. Me personally, I don't even want a radio at camp. I don't want music. I want to listen to nature. I want it to be quiet. Almost nearly all electronics should be off when out in nature. I want you to get dirty, play in the mud, climb a tree. You shouldn't be playing a Game Boy and, or a Nintendo Switch nowadays and listening to music.
What's a Game Boy?
Being connected to the internet.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm with you on that. And so that also then comes down to let's take Buck Island as an example, right? If the majority of people that go to a specific camp area like Buck Island like to party, and that has kind of become known to be the party scene, does random person coming in from the out of town, out of state, never been on the Rubicon before, and their camping trip includes staying a night at Buck Island on a Saturday night, but they hate loud noises at past 10 p.m., 11 p.m., whatever it is, do they have the right / entitlement / whatever to go over and ask people to be quieter?
I think if it's after 10 p.m., yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a quiet I think there's a quiet hours. I believe the etiquette is there's a quiet hours.
Yeah.
Right. And I would also say to those people that have never done it or coming into town that you guys didn't, if you want quiet, you didn't do your research good enough.
Didn't do your research. Yeah. True.
Right. And there's a lot of times there's plenty of camping at Buck Island Lake to find a spot where you could still be far enough away from people that you can get at least somewhat quiet. Because I think we were like the last campsite on Buck Island Lake.
There's not too much other camping near where we camped last time.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of camping closer to Old Sluice that keeps you you're farther from the water, but that might be the sacrifice you need to make to have a little bit quieter campground.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think that if you come in not knowing that a certain camping area is a party scene, God, what's that valley? The valley reservoir that the Pure 4x4 guys used to like to go to.
I don't know.
It's going to bug me now. But anyways, this place has kind of been known now for people just driving down there camping in the weekend. It becomes a party scene every weekend, or like Moon Rocks on Memorial Day.
Right.
So if you show up in that area and not realizing what's going on, I think you didn't do your research. But also I think that the etiquette thing is that there should be quiet hours past a designated time. 10 p.m. seems to be a good one for everybody.
Yeah.
So it seems to be fair for everybody. Because I go to bed at 8 p.m. And there's been times when we've been out camping and it's like 9:30 and we're trying to sleep and we can't sleep because people are being loud. But I'm like, I don't think it's fair for me to go over and ask them to be quiet before 10 p.m.
Right.
But after 10 p.m., I'm kind of like, I think that's a kind of a fair compromise time.
I do too.
So,
yep.
Yeah. You're cool. Let's see. Stop to help others.
Yes, that's a very important one. That's a good etiquette.
Very, very good etiquette. Always, if somebody is stopped on the side of the trail, just stop real quick and say, "Hey, how you doing? Do you need anything?"
Yeah, you good?
And the biggest thing for me is ever since it was explained to me by Stainless Steel Dan, I think his name is. I forget what his first name is.
Should be Steve.
Right, Stainless Steel Steve. His entire rig is built out of stainless steel. He did all custom himself, and he said that he absolutely loves stopping and helping people on the trail because it's how he meets new friends and makes new friends.
Right.
And so now, anytime I get the chance to stop and see how people are doing, I'm like, yeah, it's another opportunity to meet somebody new and make a new friend. So
and to maybe work on something new.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that you might have the part that they need. Right. And so it's always a benefit to just stop really quick, a few seconds, go, hey, are you guys good? Do you need anything? They go, no, I think we got everything. Okay, cool.
Yep.
You need a water? Nope, we're good. All right. See you later.
Have a good one, guys. Yeah, I blew that one group down at, where were we? It was when you were messing around with your power steering again. They had blown a valve stem out.
Yeah.
And I was like, they were like, oh no, we're just going to put the spare on and blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, we just got to find the tools to get the spare off because the lug nut lock key, right? They couldn't find it. And I was like, do you guys want a Colby valve?
Yeah.
And they're like, a what? And I was like, a Colby valve. They're like, what's that? I was like, oh my God, let me show you this.
Yeah.
And so it blew their minds away what the Colby valve was allowed them to do there on the trail. So, and I made some new friends.
Yep.
It was fun. So
there you go. The last one on my list is water crossings. Go enter a water at a designated water crossing spot and leave the water at a designated water crossing location. Don't drive upstream. Don't, try to find an obstacle that you can climb to get out of the water, because as much as we talked earlier about a water erosion, man, just digging up a shoreline right in the water for it to go down the trail or down the stream is the worst thing possible. So take it easy. Try not to even disturb the ground. Just go nice and smooth through that. Maybe not even try to create a huge wave that pushes a lot of water up onto shore, bringing more sediment down into the river. Just take it easy, enter where you're supposed to, depart where you're supposed to, and continue down the trail.
Yep. I'm a big believer in that. Yeah, I've got nothing really to add. The more you do it, the better off that our trails will be, and they stay. And the more that people don't do that, the quicker all of our trails get shut down.
Yeah.
So
I'm envisioning the water crossing at Committee and Fordyce, how everybody used to cross on the left side of the tree, and now they're crossing on the right side of the tree, and they've disturbed the ground now in that area. And unfortunately, it's now it's accepted, but back in the day, like a few years ago, it was, people were telling people not to go through there because it had eroded, or it was eroding the bay, or the side of the side of the river there. But now it's eroded so far, it's rock, and it's like, I guess it's okay to go through there. I still don't ever do it. I try to stay on what was the designated trail.
The left side of the tree there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun obstacle.
I do too.
But people are going through it as like, oh, I don't want to do that obstacle. I want to take the easy route. So,
I mean, that's how bypasses are created, right?
Yeah.
As
and once again,
are like, yeah,
it's, if you can't finish the obstacle, maybe you shouldn't be out there.
Yeah. That's, yeah, I mean, the last one on my list is leave no one behind, but bypasses is another thing that we didn't bring up. As soon as, and there's a big ass bypass being created down near Buck Island, right at the V notch, that V rock. Instead of people going through it, they're going around it.
Yeah,
and like going up on the shelf right there to get around it is one thing that I'm kind of like, it's fine. It's just a big granite rock shelf. You're not doing any damage by being up there. But people are now creating another bypass through the Wet Creek section there behind the shelf.
Oh, really?
And showing up, and the trail appears and back in the camping area.
Whoa, it goes that far? Holy cow.
Yeah. And so I took some pictures of it, and I'm going to be sending it into the county and saying, hey, just FYI, there's a bypass starting right here. And as soon as one person does it, it creates tracks there that more people think that now it's okay to do. And as soon as you start doing that, it makes irreparable damage in places we don't want irreparable damage at.
So it bypasses the like corner down at the bottom after the V?
Yeah, so it bypasses that corner too.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it goes all the way into like that camping area that you were talking about earlier that's up from the bathrooms. Yeah.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah. It threw me because when we were leaving Buck Island, we were actually looking for the bypass to get up on the shelf. And I thought that's where it came in. I was like, man, this is a bad bypass right here. And so we took that section because it was a very clearly a lot of people had been through there. Mm-hmm. So we went through that part. And then I realized the bypass I was looking for was right at the bottom of the V notch to get up on the shelf.
Yeah.
And after I got through it, I was like, we got up onto the shelf. And I was like, oh my God, this trail, this bypass that we just came all the way in from the camping area, got up on the shelf. But then I realized that it went around the creek that had been, somebody moved a tree. So that people weren't driving through the little creek section there. Mm-hmm. And so people had started before the creek and made it all the way around into the campsite.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not. So when you do that, trails shut down. When you create new bypasses, trails shut down. So don't create bypasses, people.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways.
And what was the last one?
Last one was leave no one behind.
Yep. That's a good one too.
Yep. If you start off with 8 rigs in your group that day, end the day with 8 rigs in your group.
Yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, buddy system, somebody, 2 people take off to go get a new Dana 30 axle so you can get out of there.
Yep.
And the 6 rigs are back or vice versa. But I would say if you do leave somebody behind, always leave them with somebody else.
Yes.
So there's 2 people there so that you can have more variety, more ways, more
resources.
Safety, more resources. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If that person absolutely needs to get out, there's now another vehicle for him to do it for whatever reason. Yeah. But buddy system's always a good one. Buddy. And while you leave nobody behind.
Yeah. Cool. I think that about does it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent list.
Mm-hmm. It's a very comprehensive list. I'm sure we still miss some stuff. I'm curious what people think about some of the more controversial topics like stacking rocks or bypasses or, what was one of the other ones? Spinning tires.
Yeah.
I'm curious what other people think of those. So send us in your feedback. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from everybody out there. Phone number is 916-345-4744. You can call in and let us know what you think about some of these topics here, or if there was a really cool one that we missed, such as on off-road safety, not leaving your thumbs inside the steering wheel.
Yes, that's a good one.
I can't believe we missed that one.
Yeah, somebody else sent me one too, and I forgot what it was. But that one by far, don't put your thumbs in the steering wheel.
No, unless you want to have them ripped out. So, man, if anybody wanted to get a hold of us any other way other than calling and leaving a voicemail, we do have emails. I apparently check mine once every week and a half or so. Sorry. Jimmy's is Jimmy at Snail Trail 4x4. Mine's Tyler at Snail Trail 4x4. You can always get a hold of us on Instagram as well. Snail Trail 4x4 or 4x4 Toyota Tyler. Lots of ways to interact. You can go check it out over at Irate 4x4 and see all the fun things, fun conversations going on over there. You can leave some of your ideas and feedback about trail etiquette on this episode's thread on Irate 2 and see what other people think about different trail etiquette ideas.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great spot for everybody to start putting things down at.
Yep. So with that, Jimmy, do you have any final words for everybody to close out this trail etiquette episode?
AC before lockers.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Okay.
Why are spiders such know-it-alls?
Because they're in the web?
You good? Close, because they're always on the web.
Because they're always on the web. Gotcha. Nice.